Hey everybody, welcome to Twin Talk, a video discussion show where twin brothers Chris and Kevin drink and draw while talking about comic books, movies, and all things pop culture. We are your hosts, Chris Hart,
Kevin Hart,
and today we're going to be talking about Wandavision, Episode 4. We have the new episode of Wandavision. It came out today, dropped, episode 4. And the payoff is finally here from the first 3 episodes that everybody was complaining about.
The episode title is We Interrupt This Program. I really like the theme titles, again, relating to television and sitcoms. And we're getting more answers, so very cool to see how it's playing out.
This episode kicks off. We see the effects of the blip, Thanos' snap, and this is going to be Iron Man's snap from Endgame. We see everybody coming back from that 5-year hiatus. We see people just starting to reappear where they were when they left 5 years ago. And one of them is Monica Rambeau. We see she comes up into a hospital room and she has no idea what's going on.
I thought it was pretty cool how it almost segued from the cliffhanger of last week's episode where Monica Rambeau comes tumbling out of WandaVision's little energy field and how she kind of came back to life. I was confused at first. Was this from last week's episode? I was like, oh yeah, that's cool how they're kind of even flashing back a little bit earlier to the blip, they called it. Mm-hmm. I still think it's a ridiculous title. But it was cool to see how they kind of all came back at once. And I just love that in that moment, we know the sacrifice that Tony Stark's making. So just, we love him 3000.
I am Iron Man.
Yeah, very
so
cool.
Badass. He gave his life so we may live. The ransom sacrifice of Tony Stark. Monica Rambeau, she reappears. She's back in this hospital room. To her, I believe she said it felt like 20 minutes or something like that. And it's been 5 years. She realizes that her mom, Maria Rambeau, has passed away 3 years prior. It was cancer, and she died 2 years after she disappeared. It's all kind of confusing. It's all chaos in this hospital.
For those that are unfamiliar, Monica, she's the daughter of Maria Rambeau. The last time we saw them was in Captain Marvel, so they are part of the MCU canon, and very cool to see how they have plans for these characters and how they're playing with the sandbox, a little bit of even in this episode when she comes back, they keep calling her Captain. I thought that was a cool little nod to her character in the comic books.
I don't know if they have any plans for that. It would be pretty cool. For a while there was a group that was really just targeting that they want Brie Larson to step down, and they wanted Monica Rambeau to become the new Captain Marvel. It's we can have both people, so let's just wait and see if they have plans, because obviously she's going to be an integral part of the show. I'm excited to see her character development because she was just a kid in Captain Marvel, so now we'll see her grow in the MCU and see where she falls into place here.
Even if you turn on the subtitles and listen closely, in the beginning of the episode when she's coming back from the blip, you hear kind of segments of audio from the movie Captain Marvel. So we get a little bit of backstory with Monica Rambeau. We see her coming back to life, coming back to the routine of her job at S.W.O.R.D. Apparently she's a S.W.O.R.D. agent, S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, and we kind of get some backstory of what's going on here. She gets immediately put into the field, and we see another character from the MCU, a small role as an FBI agent, Jimmy Woo, played by Randall Park.
Last we saw him was Ant-Man and the Wasp?
I believe in Ant-Man and the Wasp, yeah, when he was watching Paul Rudd's Ant-Man on
playing
house
drums.
arrest.
Yeah, playing electronic drums.
Yeah.
Drinking Bud Light seltzers, whatever the hell he was up to, and saving the day, apparently.
The magic trick where he's with all the cards.
Just vomits cards. He's got nothing better to do.
Yeah.
That was Ant-Man during quarantine.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
So next we see Monica. She gets tasked with this mission to go check out this missing persons case in New Jersey, in the town of Westview, which apparently doesn't exist. Population of 3,000 they said is missing. And they go there. There's this giant force field around it. She sends a drone in there. It looks familiar because we see that it's the colorized version of the helicopter from episode 2. And then she puts her hand in and she gets sucked into this vortex. And we know that she's a character Geraldine in the first couple episodes of the town of Westview.
Even these cops kind of seemed kind of shady. They were oh.
And they just disappeared too. Did they drive into the town?
I don't know. Yeah.
Never
said they're from Eastview, which I don't know if that's an actual town located in New Jersey, but
they just kind of disappeared. They were it doesn't exist. And we never saw them drive either into the town or out of it, so who knows. But things are suspect. Things are looking sus in the town of Westview.
It was cool to see, speaking of that helicopter, seeing now the bigger reveal, the outside picture looking in. I like that we get to see both sides of what's going on, and I hope that it kind of picks up the pace of the show a little bit more.
Yeah, this episode, you didn't like it as much as I did. I felt like this was a lot of payoff for the first 3 episodes. We got that sitcom flavor in the first 3. People were giving it negative reviews. They were kind of just like, it's whatever. It's not that funny. I'm over it. But we see that this is the payoff to all the setup.
I just felt like it revealed, if you have an idea of the comic books, it revealed what you already kind of had an idea of where the show was going. But to a general audience, it kind of spoon-fed you of like, oh, this was the beekeeper, this was the helicopter. And that's good because we need to get caught up because the show is very head-scratching, bizarre to an audience that has no clue, not even the comics, but the Marvel Cinematic Universe. If this is their first time watching it, I can definitely see how they'd be lost. It did a good job of catching us up to speed. But now that we're caught up, let's get the show rolling. Like, come on.
I really felt this episode was a nice payoff for everything. And we enter, what's the chick's name from, she calls Thor's hammer Meow Meow.
Oh, Kat Dennings, yeah, is
Kat
the actress.
Dennings.
She plays Darcy Lewis, which we know her from the Thor movies.
She comes back. Last time we saw her was in Dark World, I believe. Mm-hmm. That was a long time ago. But she comes back, reprises her role in the MCU, which is nice to see that they keep these things.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying with the FBI agent, Jimmy Woo, Kat Dennings, Darcy Lewis from Thor. Cool to see how they kind of are
supporting
dropping
characters, just keep reprising.
And Monica
roles.
Rambeau, these smaller characters that are playing the larger role in the MCU.
I appreciate that. So we see here she comes on board with a bunch of this ragtag team of different scientists. I guess they're all experts in their fields. The FBI brings them in because they have no idea what's going on in Westview, so they bring them on.
Much like the audience.
Darcy Lewis, she cracks the code on what's going on. She's
like, go down to the thrift store. Here's $5. Go get,
give me a cup of coffee and
the box TV and a cup of coffee.
She somehow figures out through whatever she was doing that there's these cosmic rays or whatever that's coming in from this town. It's in the shape of a hexagon. What's that about? Mm-hmm. And she's picking up all the things that the audience has been asking for weeks now. So she's kind of feeding us the answers through her lens as a character.
It was cool though to see that perspective because these characters were basically us as audience members. They're watching the WandaVision, the sitcoms.
They are literally watching it.
They're watching
She's
it. She's
invested in the show. She says at some point, like, she was like happy that they were having kids and stuff. She's like, I'm invested.
Mm-hmm. Which was a funny joke too when like they were gotten to the Jimmy Woo and Darcy Lewis are talking. She's like, oh, do you want any? He's like, yeah, kids, I'm thinking about them down the line, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I meant the chips.
Yeah.
Like I actually, laughed out loud
that was a good one. Yeah, it's like that awkward moment. This dude's having like an identity crisis. She's just offering him salt chips.
Just like baked Lay's.
Yeah.
FBI agent Jimmy Woo is looking for Monica Rambeau. He saw her go into this like vortex of an energy beam. He's all concerned about her. And they finally find her through WandaVision. She's just sitting like on the park bench reading the newspaper in like the 50s. And they're kind of concerned about where she is. And in the show, we knew her as Geraldine. But from the outside, we know her as Monica Rambeau. So they find her whereabouts.
And I'm a little confused about it. Is she playing a part? Like, is she playing along with this? Or is she like...
They were confused too. They were like...
Is she legit like sucked into the show? Is Wanda controlling
Because
her?
anything that went in kind of transformed.
Into like what she wanted it to be almost. Like to that style.
Yep.
Like even the drone, like we saw it was different when... Monica sent it in, and then in the episode, it was like a very retro, vintage-looking toy helicopter. So maybe that's what happened with her too when she went in. And apparently, all those people that are in the town, like they were probably normal people, and then like got sucked into this whole thing, and like they're all like they're acting the part too. So maybe it's just what happens when you go into this like vortex. Even the FBI's or SWORD or whatever, whoever's working on this, they're
both on the case.
Yeah, they're kind of like putting together like, oh, this person is playing this Mr. Hart, Mr. and Mrs. Hart. This person's playing, they
have like their New Jersey state license up on the board.
They have their identification in reality, and then the person they're playing, they're cast as in WandaVision's show. And we obviously see that she's running the show. As we theorized, she seems to be the villain in this show. Although I still think that there are things that are going to come like to light. Like, I don't think the Strucker commercial is by accident. Obviously, Strucker like gave her powers or whatever happened in Age of Ultron. But I feel like there's more to it. We know that Evan Peters might be coming in as Mephisto. We see that the Strucker commercials, that Hydra symbols are everywhere.
You would think SWORD, someone would pick up on that as they're watching the episodes like we are. They'd be like, oh, Hydra's doing this.
It's true, yeah. They're just kind of like staring at... They're watching it like we're watching it on the TV, and they see a Strucker commercial. Wouldn't they be like, oh, that's the Hydra symbol? Did they just like, take over the world,
infiltrate
and Winter
our
Soldier,
entire corporation and
like
agency,
divide everybody, leading to a civil war? It's like, so who knows? Maybe they're just oblivious, or maybe she's just doing that because Strucker like gave her powers, and she was connected in that way. And even the connection we said to AIM, the beekeeper, turned out to not be an AIM agent. It turned out to be one of the FBI guys that went into the sewers. He came up. He entered the little like Westview town, and the rope that was like pulling him back became a jump rope, and his like suit became like this beekeeper looking dude. So
I don't think
that explained that.
I think it explains the sword because the sword logo was on this beekeeper. But I think that again that's a subtle hint to AIM, Advanced Idea Mechanics, the acronym from the MCU, which we saw in Iron Man 3 with Aldrich Killian. I believe the actor was Guy Pearce. We kind of got a hint of that. Maybe they're at play here. It's like a division of Hydra, so I guess we'll see because I think that's pretty heavy-handed too. Even on the whiteboard, he wrote down what's with the hexagonal shapes, and we know it's kind of their symbol, AIM, so we'll see.
There's 5 episodes left. There's still a lot to unpack. We know that they're going to be going back into that sitcom flavor with the 80s and the 90s with the Full House like reference, and I'm looking forward to the 80s one. I believe the 80s one is where they go for like trick-or-treating and stuff.
With the original
with their
costumes,
with their cosmic comic accurate looks, and it's pretty cool looking. So I'm really excited for that episode. But as far as AIM goes, like you're thinking that they might have a part to play. I'm thinking that was it, and I'm kind of let down by that. But if AIM does come into play, I'll be pretty happy about that because, like you said, it is in the comics and cartoons. It is a division of Hydra. It's a scientific division, and it could add to the story of a bigger picture. But as of right now, we learned that Wanda is the main villain in this show. Even Monica Rambeau, when she gets kicked out of the vortex, Jimmy Woo and all them, like Darcy Lewis, they're looking at the screen. There's that part where she says, "Oh, didn't Quicksilver, your brother Pietro, get killed by Ultron?" And that was a real world reference. Wanda wasn't having it. She kind of like lunged at her, and then the film like cut. And it was the end of the show credits where they're like holding the baby. It's like, happy-go-lucky couple. But in reality of WandaVision's world, she forced her through like 18 houses and sent her out of the energy field, the vortex, and then Sword came and picked her up and all that. So we're seeing that she's kind of manipulating everything. It's all a manifestation of her, pieces of her that she held on to. And let's talk about when she turns around and sees Vision enter the house.
Oh, yep.
He looks like he did at the end of Infinity War when like
he's messed up.
Thanos crushed his skull and took the stone out. And she's like horrified by that. She's like, oh. And
I just think it's her denying reality. She's been through a lot of dark times and she needs help big time. Yeah, she needs a lot of help.
Somebody with that amount of power and like being traumatized to that effect of like losing their parents, losing their brother, losing their loved one, like you don't want that person with chaos magic, becoming like a mentally ill person and losing control. And all of her trauma is kind of like Avengers based. So I wonder if she's gonna kind of like go dark for a little bit, and they're gonna have to like redeem her.
Kevin Feige mentioned too that she's one of the most powerful. I don't think he said mutants because he wouldn't be able to at the time, but one of the members of the Avengers. So it's cool to see how she's playing such a big role into this next phase of the MCU.
And I wonder if they're going to delve into that. Like, is any of this going to set up the X-Men? We know it's been pretty recent between the merger of, them getting the rights to the X-Men. Is it too soon? Are they going to set some of this up now? Some of the groundwork? I'm sure there's a plan behind it all, but we're definitely starting to see a bigger picture of the show, and I'm excited to see where it goes from here. Next episode, I hope they don't go full on into just WandaVision sitcom stuff again, because I feel like that'll be like.
Backtracking.
Yeah, backtracking a little bit. We want to move forward. Now we know the bigger picture. We want to involve that plot, kind of like, drip it in here and there in between segments of WandaVision, so that maybe it starts to affect her world, and then things start to unravel from there. That's what I hope to see from the rest of the series. I feel like the ones that were hating on it hopefully got some clarity on the series, and I hope that they came to see this episode.
Hope it paid off a bit.
Yeah, I hope it paid off for them, because like I wasn't loving the negative reception of it.
It's Marvel.
Yeah, it's Marvel.
They've proven themselves. Yeah.
They're a proven product at this point, and also just like the amount of work that went into making those like 50s, 60s, 70s flavored sitcoms reproductions. It's just like there's so like as an artist, you just eat that up. Yeah, so you have to at least give them that, give them kudos for that.
Anyways, that about wraps up today's episode of Twin Talk. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, comment below to join the discussion, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content. We'll see you next time. Peace!